What's good, everybody? Sherman Webb-Middlebrooks back with another episode of Igniting Hope Radio. I am your host, lifelong Buffalo resident and full-time black man. And listen, I have a very exciting episode for y'all today. I'm about to kick it with one of my high school classmates, a mayoral candidate here in the city of Buffalo, a brother with an extensive resume, a scholar, a community son, the good brother Anthony Tyson-Thompson. He is a bold grassroots mayoral candidate, and he is looking to shake the table and rewrite Buffalo's political script. From growing up on the east side to leading regional COVID relief. In this episode, good brother Anthony is going to share his journey, his challenges, and unapologetic vision for a more just, equitable, opportunity-filled Buffalo. So get ready for an unfiltered dive into some real issues, some real talk with some real leadership and some real hope.
Come on.
Word. All right, good brother. So, talk to us. What's been going on with you, man?
Man, nothing but good trouble, man. That was a good introduction, man. I might need you at the more of the rally speeches, man.
No, I got word. Let me know. Let me know. So first and foremost, brother, why did you decide to throw your name into the race for this election?
It was evolution, man. It was a calling. It was supposed to happen. I'm a man of faith, and anything that I do, that's the type of step I take. First is always praying. And at the time when I was looking into all the rest of the candidates, I seen that there was a real need, a real market gap, a vacuum for actual systemic change.
Yeah.
I think a lot of candidates were running on their experience. A lot of candidates was running on just namesake. I do believe that they're all good men who are running. But I think where it mattered the most for this city is implementation of policy, transformation of Buffalo. I'm not gonna say a lot of guys who are currently running that might be touting the experience, but where's the experience got in Buffalo? I mean, we have a lot of systemic and structural issues at place that exacerbates perpetual systemic issues that goes on in the community. So when you look at that, I think we need a leader who knows how to not just understand policy, but how to implement it correctly into the system that works for every working person in Buffalo. I'm the best person for that role, and if I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be running. I sure as less would bow gracefully.
Yeah.
But the city. Buffalo's in a rough shape, and we need real leadership, bold leadership, and new vision for the city because we can't keep doing the same old,
right.
expecting new Buffalo out of it. So really that's it, man. It's nothing out of ego. It's not ambition. It's not for notoriety or popularity. It's because our city needs it right now because Buffalo can't wait.
Word. I think that's been some of the pushback that I've seen online when it comes to your candidacy. I think some folks because you have an extensive resume,
right.
I think some folks are trying to look at you like, oh, look at the young fella, like trying to get some publicity. So tell us a little bit about your background and your experience and like what makes you the right candidate. What are some of your experiences that you're going to be leaning on if and when you get elected?
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I'm from Buffalo. I mean, I'm a product of Buffalo. I'm a son of the city. Like, I grew up in the 14215 zip code.
Yeah.
I grew up in Kim Bailey area. I mean, if y'all know anything, I know that
Me
zip
too.
code. Yeah. So I even got to preach to the choir. You already know that's one of the most challenged areas, not only in the city, but in the country.
Right.
And having to navigate walking to school every morning with crumbling infrastructure, sidewalks that are uneven, unsafe, potholes everywhere.
Grass all high.
Yeah, grass high, the streets, man. I know the weight of impossibility. I know what that burden feels like. I know what it feels like to be overlooked, to feel like you don't have a voice or you're not heard. I live the challenges that so many families in the city face, and I've been able to persevere through it because of faith. I mean, first and foremost, then family, and just being able to just have or work extremely smart and hard. I mean, I've been able to navigate virtually every form of education in this country between Buffalo Public Schools, Buffalo Charter Schools. I went to Emerson. That's how we connected.
Yep.
Then I went to transfer over to Hush Tech to finish it out. But then I went to a HBCU called Morgan State University for my first year of college. Then I went on to coming back to Canisius. My father got sick with cancer. So finished off at Canisius with a double bachelor's in poli-sci, political science and criminal justice. Then went on to Columbia for my first master's in negotiations and conflict resolution. And then finished off recently at Harvard with my master's in public administration.
That's dope.
Focusing on public policy implementation. So I've navigated some of the worst of the worst and made it to some of the highest heights in terms of education in this country. And I've also navigated some of the worst in terms of navigating the streets of Buffalo to also, being in some of the brightest rooms with some of the most powerful and intellectually gifted minds in the world.
Right.
And I use all of this experience to come back to my city to help it out. I mean, once again, because the city needs help, not namesake or a guy who wants to build his resume. Like, this is real. So when people say it, I know it's a lot of my elders who say it, and they say it respectfully.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to think, man, like, I'm not just a guy getting his name out. I'm the best, most qualified, and most viable candidate to actually address the systemic issues of the city of Buffalo. I mean, we could talk about all the disparities that not are just in Buffalo. I mean, not just particularly in the east side, but the entire city itself, with mental health, with poverty, with underperforming schools, systematic racism. We're one of the most segregated cities in the country, and it's literally killing our people, literally. I mean, with the top terrorist attack. So we have all these things that are perpetual, systematic, structural, that are marginalizing our people and creating great disparities. And we got to be serious about this. You should not be running for office to get your name out there to build your resume. This is real. This is real stuff going on.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah, real stuff going on, man. So we got to make sure that we being mindful of who actually stands the best shot for doing it. And I would say all the candidates, they've been elected for decades. You know what I mean? Did you know any of their names until they started coming around not asking you for your vote? I mean, these have been electeds who's been in office for years. A lot of people are largely, they don't know who they are. And that's a real issue if you don't know who your leaders are.
Yeah.
So we have to be mindful. It's not a name recognition thing because no one really knows anybody's name. So me becoming a newcomer, now it's at a baseline. Who has the right qualifications, the right lived experiences, and the right kind of charismatic that you need to actually transform systems and structures? I mean, we look at that, then I think my name comes up pretty easily.
I like that. So you've seen the city and the world from the block to the boardroom.
Yeah.
So like, you kind of talked a little bit about this. So how do those two worlds like collide for like prosperity, like in your vision for Buffalo?
Yeah, so you got to have both. You got to be a scholar and a practitioner. I mean, you got to know theoretical like lenses and theories to kind of help you as an arsenal, right? It's like a chef having a knife. You got to know what tools you need, but at the same time, you got to have a lived experience too. That's what the practitioner part says. Have you actually spoken with community members? Have you actually done the work on the ground? Like, are you just talking from a theoretical point? Because a lot of things that we're facing are not theory, they're reality for people. We talk about underperforming schools and the education that's not great, then we see in our economy where we have a blue-collar city people who are struggling just to make ends meet, who got to make impossible choices between paying for groceries or paying for rent. People who are getting outpriced the market so they can't buy homes or, acquire the American dream. So these are real issues. They're not just theory. So we got to address it practically. I'll say like there's a lot of leaders who promote and who try to make their resume sound good because of all the policies they've passed, right? It sounds good to say, I've given the east side of Buffalo $10 million in funding for this great initiative. Yeah. The problem is now it's not about that because that sounds good, but has anybody in the east side of Buffalo actually gotten that money?
Right. And what are some of the outcomes and benefits? Not just where did the money go, like where were the benefits, who benefits it? Show me the fruits, not just the labor. You know what I'm saying? So like, don't tell me what they say. Don't tell me about the labor. Show me the baby.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Come on. Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So like, show me the baby. What did you produce? What came from this?
So that's the difference that's a nuanced difference between policy design, which is lawmakers, right? You see a lot of lawmakers are running for office currently who are great at making policy that sounds good, but the problem is not reality tested. So it may sound good to say, once again, I gave all this money to this particular community for this particular marginalized group. But if people can't access it because it's too convoluted, it's too confusing, too much red tape to get to it, and you feel like you're a burden when you go to City Hall because nobody want to help you out, then it's really often not. They just dangling in our faces. They playing in our faces.
Right.
And then 5 years down the line, when that money's still sitting there because nobody has gotten access to it, they say, oh, look at these people. They're not really serious. They don't really want it. So let me just take this money back and reallocate it to something else. And that further perpetuates the cycle of our systemic issues going on again. So there's a big difference between policy design, which sounds good, and policy implementation.
Right.
It's taking those laws that got passed and enacted into law and now putting those in the community, making sure they work. So in order to be a mayor, you got to be bold. You got to be okay with the idea of failure. Because when you're afraid of failure, then you're only going to go with safe. You're only going to go with, I don't want to take that big of a risk because I'm worried about re-election. I'm worried about getting this bad ding on my name. I'm worried about my popularity. No, it's real stuff going on.
That's true.
We got to be okay. I got to be okay with being wrong because then I'm okay to opening up to hearing what's right. So, it's that ability to look at an issue and really figure out that I don't have all the right answers, but I know if we come together, if we collaborate, cooperate together, we're going to get there possibly a lot sooner and a lot more holistically. And that's really the crux of my candidacy. Is that like, hey, I might be the smartest, but I'm also smart. No, I'm not the smartest.
Amen.
Right?
Yeah, that's real.
It's the ability to have empathy. I've lived the same lives that most people have gone through in the city. Right. So I'm not talking from I'm not trying to be y'all savior. I'm actually in with y'all.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
I like that. So also speaking of that, so tell us a little bit more about like your upbringing and like how has like watching like your mom and even like with your siblings, like how has your early experiences and like watching people around you navigate systems in the city shaped how you approach navigating the system in the city?
Yeah, man. So I say this, very humbly, like, we all just deserve a fair shot in life because by no means am I the smartest person or was the smartest person in my school or on my block or on my street or even my house. I just was afforded just a little bit more privilege. I'm one of 8. I got 5 brothers and 2 sisters. So I got to watch them navigate life and see where they made mistakes and say, you know what, maybe I don't cuss out mom. Maybe because I know what that headlight look like now. Maybe I come home on curfew, right? Or maybe I just ask one of my older siblings for advice that they could give to me because they already lived through it and got burned. So I could figure out how to avoid that. A lot of people, they're the first person, the firstborn in their family, so they don't have that opportunity to ask the older sibling for advice that they feel like they can't go to the parents. A lot of people become victims of the streets, man. Like, you know how it is. A lot of people go to schools that are just historically underfunding. I remember when I was in 8th grade, and they told me, you want to apply to these 2 schools first, and then have your backup.
Yeah.
Because those other schools right there, nah. You know what I mean? So it's integrated.
I remember that too. Yeah. 13 having to make them kind of decisions, man.
Yeah. So I just been afforded just a little bit of privilege in life. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I'm by no means the talented, because there's so many more kids or so many people who I grew up with who are more talented, just naturally more gifted, who were probably just were intellect was just amazing, but they just fell through the cracks. Yeah. Not because of lack of ambition, but because of lack of opportunity. Right. You know what I mean? And growing up, and I see that, and I'm just one of the many mediocre peoples on the east side of Buffalo, or just in the city of Buffalo in general. But I'm the product of what happens when I just get a little bit of a fair shot in life. Look to be able to produce. HBCU, Canisius College, double Ivy League degree person. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And like I'll say to yourself, I'm nowhere near the exception. I'm the rule. Wow. There are plenty of people walking around the city of Buffalo who are way more talented, have way more going on and stuff. I don't want to make myself too humble because I did take a lot of work to get to it.
You did put in that work. Yeah, like, don't diminish. Don't.
Yeah, I ain't gonna. Yeah, I don't want to talk down on myself, but I'm saying to you that the talent is here in Buffalo, and a lot of times that we have real ceilings in the city where we're overlooked, we're overshadowed, and if you do have talent in the city of Buffalo, people often see you as a threat and not an asset. So when we talk about like the old guard or about just the Buffalo ceiling in general, a lot of people have to leave because they feel like they can't find opportunity here. And we got to change that because if we're producing so many talented minds in the city, but they have to leave in order to find opportunity. That's why another of our issues are being perpetual because we're not keeping our talent here. And we got to make sure, well, as mayor, I got to make sure I'm bringing enough industries that are both public and private to make sure that our talent stays in Buffalo and everybody can grow and have a thriving lives. So,
yeah, I know. I love the sound of that. And just thinking, really, you got me wanting to sort of pivot to like my next set of questions, which really aim to get at like race, power, and privilege in the city of Buffalo.
Okay.
Because as you said earlier, we do live in a sort of segregated city. Well, not sort of.
Yeah, sort of. It's one of the most segregated cities in the country.
Yes, and we one of them northern cities.
Exactly.
Right. We actually one of the most beautiful things that I love about the city of Buffalo is like we are the last stop on the Underground Railroad, and I don't think a lot of people really like appreciate that or think about that in the sense of like we on Freedom Lane. Like we at the end, we are where our ancestors were trying to get to.
Yeah.
And so for me, that's one of the key reasons why I don't want to leave. Because why would I want to leave where they was trying to get to? This is the promised land. Yeah. I'm supposed to make good on the promise.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Why would I want to leave where they fought so hard to get to? For me, but to each their own, I just never understood that. But like, I'm wondering, do you think that like the older black leaders in the city of Buffalo are passing the torch, or do you think they're holding on too tight?
No, not. I mean, I don't think they hold on too tight. I think they're just looking for leaders who are actually going to continue the good work, like the tough work. You know what I mean? Because I'm a student of the civil rights movement. I'm a descendant. I mean, I'm a student of my ancestors. I'm a descendant of them.
Right.
So, you know, my grandparents told me about their grandparents, and what that generational knowledge has transferred over to me. You know what I mean? I'm able to be me only because I stand on the shoulders of my, elders.
Amen.
So when I think about it, you have to be serious, because they're not just going to give over like their life's work, their literal blood, sweat, and tears just because you say you want it. Do you really want it, or are you just saying it, right? So we got to be serious about what it means to be changed. And sometimes, you know, a lot of young people, me included, when we first start off, we think that we're going to just create just swift transformation.
Yeah, overnight.
Overnight. And that's not how it works.
Facts.
I mean, as a person who studied public policy at one of the greatest institutions in the world, you know, going to Harvard, I would say that change systemically is painfully slow. You know what I mean? It's incremental. It's what, you know, like I said, I'm a student of civil rights movement. So Martin Luther King, you always talk about the moral arc of the universe, how it's like long, but it's bent towards justice.
Yes, sir.
And what he's saying in that is that, listen, like, you know, you got to have what's called a capacity of despair. That's what we call it, a capacity for despair. Saying, now, listen, if you're so fickle that at the first sign of resistance, at the first sign of a no, or at failure, that you get scared and you want to run away, you're not serious about this.
That's a fact.
I mean, these issues been going on way before we were here, thought of, and they're going to be continue to consist and persist after we're gone. Our job is not to end racism. The idea that, you know, the arrogance that I think I'm going to be the person to change all of Buffalo's systemic and racial and effed up issues, it not only is it arrogant, it's frivolous, and people should understand that mind. Like, there's no way that just because I'm a black leader or because I'm smart, that I'm going to fix all of the systemic issues. That's not how it works.
That's that hero complex folks be having.
It's that savior complex. This is why we continue to exacerbate and perpetuate issues.
Yep.
My job as a leader is to do and have enough foresight and belief in my people and belief in the city that we can move forward. Now, I'm not going to say that, we're going to just have a sweeping change. No, I'm going to be realistic. I'm going to speak truth to my people and speak truth to power. That my job as a leader is to move the baton just a little bit further, a little bit more forward, and hopefully that next generation of leaders can come in now and take the baton and just move it a little bit forward, a little bit more. But the issue is that in our lifetime, we spend just so much time and angst and efforts and hurt and trying to move it forward that we kind of get weary towards the end. Like, I don't want to give it up because I'm not sure if he's going to actually or she's going to actually catch the beat. So it's important to cooperate. It's important to learn and be a student of your elders, to bring them into the thing, not just like say, oh, you had your time, but to actually really be partners in the future. So as a leader, that's what I'm open to doing. Well, that's what my entire life has been open to doing.
Yeah, I think that's a dope perspective. I always use the analogy of like life is like a relay race.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to hand the baton off like to the next generation in a better place where you found it. Especially once you recognize that some of us, like to start our race, have been tossed a lateral.
Yeah.
And not being handed, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm like, I got to catch up to where you was at, dingo.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's a very interesting perspective. I'm also curious too, just because with us being such a segregated city, do you think that like Black Buffalo is represented enough in City Hall? And do you think that a Black mayoral candidate can speak to some of the white citizens who maybe live in South or North Buffalo, or in like that Delaware Park area? Like, do you think that Black Buffalo is represented, and can Black Buffalonians speak to white Buffalo and Latino? Because we live in a diverse city. I don't want to just minimize it or simplify it down to black and white, but like, do you think that a Black leader could speak to these various communities?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's beyond black at this point, man. I mean, it is racial, but it's also money these days, man. A lot of people can afford to be above the cloud of a lot of like the minor politics that goes on in people who are struggling in lives. So we are easily becoming, it's less about race and it's about if you got enough money to kind of like overstep it. I'll say when you're out taking care of a city's community that is the most vulnerable and you're making sure they have resources needed to have equitable and dignified lives, then you're creating transformation across the whole city. Because if you're taking care of your most vulnerable population, that investment is going to take care of the larger city. We're talking about in public health. We're talking about in public, a public economy.
Yeah.
We're talking about in education, crime. All those things get better when you're helping out the most vulnerable populations. And not just race. You're talking about just people with disabilities, people from different income levels, socioeconomics. So there's a whole bunch of things you want to stay focused on. So, I always say don't get caught up on, so much the skin folk. Get caught up on making sure you're doing your research on what this person actually represents and what they has actually been able to produce in the community. Just
all
because
skin folk and kin folk.
yeah, just because they're the right color don't mean they're the right person.
Amen.
You know what I mean? So, the beautiful thing about this race is 5 people running, and, it's diverse of candidates. We have now 5 candidates running, and 3 of them are black. Never in the history of Buffalo has there been 3 black candidates running into the primary in the city of Buffalo. We have real options.
Yeah.
Even other 2 guys, we have real options in the city of Buffalo, and I hear a lot about splitting the black vote.
I was just about to ask you about that. You're good at this, brother. Yeah, maybe you should run for mayor.
Right. You hear a lot about splitting the black vote, but you also, that's true.
Yeah.
But you also have to also have appreciative inquiry and say to ourselves, well, this is actually a good step that we have a diversity of black candidates who can argue over nuance. That actually we could talk about substantial politics, not just race politics or identity politics. Like, we have 2, 3 gentlemen of a color, 5 in total, who can speak to the actual issues of Buffalo. Who has the message that best resonates? Who has the qualifications that are best going to suit the city's issues? And who has the best capacity or viability to actually change the systems? So we got to dig deeper. And we also got to appreciate that we have diversity of ideas, because for the last 20 years, we haven't had much.
Right.
And going back to your point about representation, and particularly with the east side of Buffalo, which you're really saying is one of the most struggling areas in our city. I often give a lot of admiration and respect to Byron Brown. Once again, the idea of just one black man going into a very already structurally set up system and think that he was going to be the person to just automatically overhaul all of the racial, systemic marginalization and disenfranchisement, all the other big words that we know. Is it's not serious. But what I will say that I give Byron Brown credit to is that he did transform City Hall in terms of representation there. Never under his administration did we have more department heads that were people of color and people who were women, right?
That's true.
You talk about the water, like the real blue collar, because Buffalo's a blue collar city. So you talk about the water department, you talk about the sanitation and garbage collectors. Those all transformed under his administration. Like, he's been able to do really equitable things. So I'm not going to overjudge or over-critique. I will critique out of love because I want to be the next mayor, so I have to figure out where his flaws were and use it for inspiration to where I could be better.
Makes sense.
But I'm not going to overtake the first black mayor of the city of Buffalo in a way that he's this bad villain that just did nothing for the east side of Buffalo. I am going to pay respect to what he's been able to do, and he's the longest serving mayor in the history of Buffalo. You don't get there to be in the mayor for 20 years by doing nothing. So we have to have, once again, appreciate inquiry. You could be critical of a person with love, but still appreciate what they've been able to do. And that's my critique for all leaders. Like I said, I'm running a race against 4 other candidates for mayor, and I have a great admiration and respect for all of them. I just think that at this current time, I'm the best candidate for the job to actually address, once again, our issues that really impact us. We're not even getting simple things right. These potholes is crazy.
Man, listen. Them potholes is crazy. And I seen the one dude on Facebook was like, they outside filling these potholes with Oreo crumbs.
Right.
I'm like, yo, whoever that is, buddy crazy.
Right.
Buddy crazy, man.
I see it's a big rush right now to fill the potholes because it's election season. So
right.
whoever hold that seat gotta hurry up. But we all know what it is, man. People ain't dumb, and we understand that this thing happens all the time. Like these little simple things that we get wrong. Buffalo has a magnificent ability to do the simple things wrong all the time, and we gotta get out of that because our city's viability is dependent on it.
Yeah. So thinking also too about our city, crime is real. Crime happens everywhere.
Right.
Not just in the city of Buffalo, not just in the city, but in suburbs too. Crime happens. And I'm a firm believer that like a lack of educational opportunities and investment and a lack of educational opportunities to like leverage that for economic opportunities, I should say. So lack of education and economic opportunities, like Dr. Umar said, is the mother and father of crime.
Right.
So do you think that like more policing is the answer? Do you think more programming is the answer?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on crime in the city of Buffalo and how to best address it by leveraging the resources of City Hall?
Yeah, so crime is one of the most like intractable issues you're gonna have in society. Like, there's not a time, there's not a place, it's not a civilization in the history of humankind where crime didn't persist. And even before laws and governments, we still understood what right and what's wrong is, right? That murder is wrong. That there's certain things that just are universally just wrong, right? So it's unfortunately one of those things that are always going to persist in the human experience. Is that how can we mitigate it? How can we make sure that it doesn't have to be an option? Well, you brought up different things, and I have to say off the bat that it's not going to be a one-stop bullet, right? It's not going to be, it's not no episode of any type of like TV drama where you think like, just because we get more police people on the streets that it's going to stop crime. Actually, sometimes it might exacerbate even more crime because of the over-policing. So we have to have a leader who's mindful of that. You have to approach these issues holistically. So crime, right? What is the deviation? I mean, like, what is the root cause of crime? So people commit crime out of because of necessity or because they're out of necessity.
It might be financially messed up.
Be financially messed
emotionally
up.
messed up. We got a lot of mental health issues going on that are rooted in financial insecurity.
But there's also over policing too, where they just have been, been proud, and anything can be seen as an infraction or something else. But there's also, like you said, mental health. There's also education. There's also lack of opportunity. There's also just the way maybe the law is written. Yeah. So all of these things create crime and make crime exist in our society. As a leader, you got to work with. So I'll see mayor being as not just the city executive. You're also the city's biggest organizer. So you're bringing people together. You're bringing institutions and systems together. And with our institutions, like when we say the word institution, right, we're really just talking about, it's a big word for saying a group of people over time.
Yep.
So institutions are really people.
Yeah.
And if you have that
people
kind of...
People make the place.
Yeah.
People make the policy.
Exactly. And then the policy becomes institutionalized. And institutions become the systems.
Yes, sir.
So when you have that nuance, which is really needed, then you are able to break it down, which we say at Harvard, we take this class called Exercising Leadership.
Okay.
And it's about that leadership that we have in this Western world that we just think is you got to be Superman. You got to have the expertise of everything. You always got to be the smartest person in the room. And no, you don't. In actuality, you're doing yourself a big disservice if you are the smartest person in the room as a leader. You want to surround yourself with people who are, quote unquote, smart or the experts, and people who are just everyday people. People who've been here for generations and decades, and new people as well. You want to get a good, robust input of ideas, of knowledge, of perceptions and perspectives into your data, because the more you have, the more you're able to produce or change. From there, you want to recognize that not everything has to be solved, but sometimes some things just have to be managed. You know what I mean? From going to worse situations.
Yeah.
And then from there, you're able to analyze the situation, then diagnose what might be the biggest or the most ripe intervention for that time. Because you might have a great idea, but if the system is not ready for it yet, if the community's not ready for it, then it might be the right idea for the wrong time.
Yeah.
So you got to have what's called a ripe intervention. A ripe intervention means that it's ripe for that moment, for that time. And then from there, you want to make sure you're working with all of your key stakeholders to make sure it comes into fruition by providing feedback loops, by the idea that I don't have the right answer. Let's cooperate. Let's collaborate together. And then let's make a policy or implement a policy that's going to be effective, and making sure that we're getting feedback loops from people who are trying to make it effective too, that they understand that it's equitable, they feel seen and heard in the process. And then you just repeat that process over and over and over again with failure, with some positivities, with some successes, but with failures and with positive, and it's on and on and on and on. That's real leadership.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a really solid answer. I think my personal understanding of that might be a more simplified version of that. But no, I think that's a really solid answer, because I'm not that kind of individual that believes that one person is going to be sitting here to solve all my problems.
Right.
And I think too many people look at politicians and people in political office like that. So I think people who then try to run for and assume political office or leadership then feel like they have to be that, because that's what they perceive the expectation of them is, and that's just going to be a flawed premise. That now you're setting yourself up for anxiety, depression, and mental health issues, because what happens when you're a human and then you fail?
Yeah.
Because all humans do. Now your ego is crushed, your sense of identity is crushed. Now you depressed, anxious, leaning on outside substances or sensation seeking and other unhealthy ways, and it's a spiraling effect that I've seen happen to a lot of people who assume leadership role when they think that they have to be the end all be all, and then they show up as a human being, and now they have that shame and embarrassment and feel like they can't return. And to be honest, I've seen it in the man in the mirror. A lot of times where I felt depressed or sad was when somebody was looking at me and I done built this complex of myself up as a super helper, and that's what I'm called to do, and that's my role, to be a servant in the community, and then somebody is counting on me and I can't come through. Dang, well, I thought I was great at this.
That's a big burden, man. You got to unload yourself, drop that cross.
Exactly. And that comes from time and experience and wisdom and recognizing that, like I can't be everything for everybody. Like
and recognize your failures too are some of your best lessons. Like, I was talking about the exercise leadership course I took at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard, and one of our biggest things that we have to do a failure case study. We actually have to do a case study on one of your own professional or personal failures in life. And you have to actually analyze, diagnose, and synthesize what went wrong and how you could possibly improve on it in the future. And you have to have that, you got to be human, and you can't be arrogant in yourself. You have to, don't focus on so much on what you want to be, focus on what you want to do. So that automatically takes self out of it. Because you got to check your ego at the door. I'm not here to be mayor, right? I don't want to be mayor. I want to help solve our systemic issues. Never. It's rarely that you hear me say, "Oh, I'm running to be mayor because I want to be mayor." I'm always saying like, "No, I'm doing this because I prayed on it." So I'm already thinking about something bigger than myself, larger than myself, right? And I say I want to attack systems. I'm not telling you like a story to tell you just who I am or a bio of myself, that I'm just this great person to boast and brag. I'm laying out my ethos, and my logos to say that I'm credible, because I've actually navigated the life challenges, and I've actually got to navigate the rigor that I need to be a change agent, right? And now I'm telling you what I'm going to do with all of that experience, and not just use my experience to boast and brag, which you often hear from other candidates, but I'm talking about my experience of how I'm actually going to perform. They're talking about what they've done, and that's not necessarily the same thing. It's a nuanced difference, but it's an important one to distinguish, because.
It most definitely is something that's important to distinguish, because you have some folks who are talking about things that may have happened in the past, and like not everybody is satisfied with the past, and
and that's your job.
That's
what you're supposed to do. And that whoever was in that seat was going to have those resources anyway.
And that makes sense. That it's not like you went above and beyond. So I definitely like the fact that we have you coming in not only as a younger candidate, but a candidate who is looking to be able to provide something new that can provide that sense of hope. I'm wondering, when folks say like the new Buffalo, some people think that's just a whiter Buffalo, or a Buffalo that is filled with more immigrants and refugees that are here to replace black folks on the east side. So if elected, how would you ensure that the revitalization of Buffalo, not just on the east side but in general, doesn't involve what they call urban renewal as Negro removal? So how can you ensure that like folks in the community aren't replaced by upwardly mobile white folks, immigrants who are coming into our communities?
Yeah, man. Buffalo's always been a melting pot. We're definitely one of the most segregated cities in the country, but we've always been a melting pot of culture and a welcoming place of people. My grandfather moved here like in the late 40s or 50s to escape the southern Jim Crow. And he came here because there was so much opportunity, economic prosperity relative to where he's coming from the South. Even though Buffalo, we got racial systems. But it was a way to make a better life, not only for himself, but his 9 children with his wife. And he found the opportunity by coming here to work at the Buffalo Forge Company as a welder. A lot of people, particularly black and people of color, they migrated to the northern cities, particularly Buffalo, because of that opportunity.
Facts.
And that's what made Buffalo one of the most shining cities in the country at the time, and a place to be. Because a lot of people worked at the Forge Company, Bethlehem Steel, the Ford plant, and many other companies.
Yeah, that whole industry that was here.
And because of that, throughout the 1900s as a century, Buffalo was one of its most like thriving economies, thriving places to be. So when we talk about the influx of people coming, regardless of what race it is, we gotta appreciate it, because without it, Buffalo's been in decline for the last 70 years.
Yes.
Population.
Unfortunately.
You know what I mean? And without new people coming, this Buffalo is going to die. So we need people, but we got to make sure that we understand the veil, the thin line between community development and gentrification.
Yes, sir.
Very thin line. So you have to have somebody who's on the beat who could address these things holistically, because it could very much go from community development to pushing these Negroes, these people out.
Yeah.
So you gotta have mind on that. I was at a thing last night at the Merriweather Library, and they're talking about the Covenant 33.
Yeah.
And about how like the racial, public health, public equity, public just everything was kind of like racist. Of how the 33 was built in the Humboldt Parkway, how plummeted property value tore up a historic parkway to build the highway. And how we kind of adjust that. So, there is a fine line, and it's often very overt. And nowadays, it's kind of inverted in how we, how racism persists. So we gotta make sure our people feel equitably treated. We gotta make sure they're being engaged. We gotta make sure that they feel heard and seen. Because regardless of what policies that you implement, whether it's good or bad, people don't feel heard. People don't feel seen. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
So it's three things you have to have a convincing argument, or a convincing resolution. I was saying it earlier: ethos, logos, and pathos. In this Greek terminology, ethos means that your own self-credibility. Who are you as a change agent, right? What gives you the credibility to stand up here and me to believe you? Then you got logos, which is your argument. Is it sound, right? That's logos. Like, how sound are you? And then you got pathos, your emotional. Your ability to have empathy and compassion and be able to resonate with everybody else in the crowd. And it's not by being a Superman, always being tough, like you said. It's about being vulnerable. Is that, listen, I'm able to be here right now in front of you with all my accreditation and credibility, and I still struggle. But I still get up.
Right.
And if I could do that, I'm sure plenty of you can too, because y'all come from the same cut of cloth.
Yeah.
So,
No, I think that's dope. Man, this is great. I'm really enjoying this interview. I just got a few more questions for you before we get on out of here.
Okay.
So just want to talk to you a little bit about our young people. So you worked with community organizations, and I'm really interested because I work with like a lot of young people, young black men in the community, in particular, and fathers. So what do you think we are not doing for our young black men and women in our community that maybe we need to start doing to invest in our next generation to get the most return on that investment?
Oh, period. Or two things, period. Education. I don't give a damn what your race is. I don't care how old you is. I don't care what your income levels is, your socioeconomics, like whatever variable you could think of or demographic you could think of, it don't matter. Education is the best way to change your trajectory in life. I'm living proof of that.
I agree.
I mean, I think everybody who came up, at one point, I would say it was when I was in high school, people were talking about like, yo, man, I wish I could go to college. I wish I could go to college. So now, I think in my generation, it was more or less like, what college are you going to? Transformational.
Very.
So I think we got to have lifelong learners in the city of Buffalo. We got to make sure.
I love that. That's a term my mentor, Tracy McGee, put on me when I was young.
So school shouldn't just be for kids from 8 to 2 and then we just close it out. Like, no, we got to make sure everybody getting this education. Everybody's learning, because when you do that, it makes bringing industries to Buffalo so much more easier, because we actually could fill the jobs that we're trying to compete for. And not only that, in this new 21st century, like, you're not just competing for a job in Buffalo or New York or in the country. This shit is, I'm sorry, this is global.
We keeping it real.
This is global. So you competing with jobs and people who are in Europe, Asia, India, or any other country or continent.
Yeah, it's a global economy.
So in order to remain competitive, in order to create a thriving economy, that you got to have people who are constantly learning so they can keep up with the latest technologies, the latest advancements in careers, and be able to compete for it. So we got to make sure kids are educated. And 3, we got to support the culture and the arts of Buffalo. There's so many talented kids in Buffalo. There's so many talented people in Buffalo. It's the culture itself. And I don't think a lot of people recognize that Buffalo is like, one of these places. But the problem is that we don't have a government or a governance that actually support the arts and culture. When you invest in arts and culture, for every dollar we get 7 back. You know what I mean? And, you know, any thriving city across this country, across this globe, any thriving city has a thriving culture. I don't care if you're talking about Atlanta, Miami, D.C., L.A., New York. They all got something to do, and you all go there already knowing what it is, what you about to get yourself into. I know when I'm going to D.C., I'm about to get a good brunch, some good day parties.
Yeah, that's a fact.
You know what I mean? When I'm going to Miami, I know I'm about to get some good beach life.
I was down there with Keon in D.C. We had a good time down there. All we did was brunch. I felt like a suburban white woman. All we did was brunch.
When I'm in LA, I know I'm about to get Hollywood. I know I'm about to get what I'm about to get. So we got to figure out and define what that culture is for Buffalo, because when we do that, we increase tourism, we increase new growth and viability, and people want to stay in Buffalo, come to Buffalo, do business in Buffalo. So it helps Buffalo, helps our young people because they stay inspired. They actually see it, they get exposure to it, and then are educated to actually take advantage of the systems at play. So all those things together makes our community better, and we just got to make sure we have the right city leaders to do it.
So how do you, and I love that because you keep setting me up. It's like, it's like you should be mayor. So talk to us a little bit about transparency, though, real quick. How will you fight the red tape that like suffocates and stifles real change? Because the other thing I know about politics is people. And people, and we live based off relationships. And I've learned that it ain't always who you know or what you know, but 100%. Who you know that's in position and willing to do something for you.
And that's the bush. I mean, that's the.
So how do you fight through that red tape?
That's the BS that exists in Buffalo, man. Yeah, Buffalo is definitely a convoluted red tape city. There's another story I could bring it up about my mother. She just bought a home recently, and she had asked me to look into like some incentives for the house because it's an older home, so she probably might qualify for like new windows that come through like the city or state initiatives. And I was looking it up. I'm like, damn, man, all this education, I still don't know what I'm doing. And it almost feels like sometimes you gotta have a law degree, and you gotta be able to speak the right jargon and gotta write the application perfectly. And even then, like you got the insiders who you gotta know somebody still if your application is perfect. It's like, dang, you set up to fail. So once again, those resources that are meant for people actually gets diverted back to the people who already have. So the haves get haves or more, and the people who have not get less or even further less. And we got to be realistic, and we got to be honest with our people. You know, I learned throughout my life that there's no such thing as a broken system. Every system is designed to work perfectly. You know what I mean? To benefit some people and to exclude others. No such thing as a broken system. So when you understand that there's a matrix code to it all. That if you try too fast to change a system, like if you throw the wrong intervention at it and it's not ripe, that system is going to push back, sometimes even harder. So that's why I talk about the ripeness of intervention, the ripeness of ideas, and the ripeness of policy. Because if you don't know what you're doing and how you're doing it, and you try to force a pass, that shit it might get intercepted. My fault. I'm a cursor, by the way, y'all, but not in public.
It's all good. It's all good. We having a real. That's what we do here on Igniting Hope.
It's like, honestly, my biggest analogy to politics is football. I know for a fact that if Josh Allen forces a pass too hard, too fast with a bullet versus a lob pass, that he's going to possibly risk an interception. Or the wide receiver picking it up, getting hit, and now it's a fumble and a recovery to it, and I mean, there are people getting a touchdown. That's the same with politics. You got to make sure it's the right timing, the right foresight to think that this, Stephon Diggs is not going to be here. He's going to be a few yards further. So I got to pass that ball a little further for it to catch. So having that nuanced understanding, and also recognizing that, once again, back into my analogy about policy design versus implementation, like it's the same sport, it's football, but two totally different skill sets, two totally different body physiques between being a linebacker and a quarterback.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? And I see a lot of linebackers, but I know quarterbacks on the stage outside of myself.
I love that.
And they could tout experience, right? Going back to more football analogy, they could tout experience. And I say it's a lot of quarterbacks in the league currently right now that have more experience than Josh Allen. But I would say Josh Allen is a lot better than those experienced quarterbacks.
Okay. I'm a Bills Mafia all day. We love the Bills.
Shout out Josh.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, I keep saying I'm going to get you out of here, but it's such great content. I know you got to go, and we both got to go. I got I got one or two real good questions I want to save for the end, but I got some quick fire, just some like...
Rapid fires? Okay.
Yeah, rapid fires for you real quick. So should the mayor have lived poverty before holding office?
Nah.
Okay.
But it helps, though. It helps empathy and it helps compassion to actually have lived experiences, because no teacher is better than life.
That. Can you be pro-black and
Oh, by the
pro
way,
cop.
man, then in that opportunity, man, you get into like the poverty wars. Like, man, I was broke, man. I had to microwave my water to take a shower. You know,
Yeah, it's like who can outpour who.
Yeah, you could outpour who?
Yeah,
man. Like,
yeah.
Man, shut up.
Yeah, I found myself in them conversations like, is we arguing over struggle?
Hey, you got it, brother. Your life was hard.
Yeah, you win. You win. You win.
Right.
Can you be black and pro cop?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely. And I want to expand on that if I could.
Please.
It's not rapid fire. The stupid thing about life these days, about our world and our society, is that we're so polarizing. Now we're either this or that. That you're either pro police or against police. And that's so stupid and it's so bad for the complexity of life because it's nuanced.
Yeah.
There's so much in the middle. I mean, I could support my police, but also critique them with love.
Yeah.
Because the job has so much power and discretion. It's the most powerful function of a municipal government is how policing happens. So, being able to say, you guys are doing well, but I want you guys to be better. That's not a diss.
Right.
That's love.
Say that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's love.
Yeah, that is.
And we have to recognize that.
That is.
And we have to get out this idea of us versus them. Because this, once again, is stupid. We should all be recognizing that we're all people in this community together, both in the city of Buffalo and throughout the greater country and also greater world.
Right.
And when you have that perspective and that compassion, it shows. You know what I mean? Like, as the mayor, I'm going to make sure that that's my force. I got to support them. You know what I mean? I got to support them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's not going to stop me from critiquing or stop me from giving, constructive criticism. Otherwise, what are we talking about?
I like that. I think that's a very balanced approach. Just in my own personal experience, like I know in general, the relationships that police have had with black folks and folks who come from marginalized and impoverished communities. But like if I'm talking just purely on Sherman's experience, like Sherman has had far more positive interactions with police than I have had negative interactions with police. And I'm literally wearing a shirt saying film the police. But I'm here to tell you I've had far more positive interactions with police than I have had with negative police.
That's a blessing for you, but it's not always a
and I understand that blessing and that privilege. So when I hear other people share their stories, I often don't even share mine.
Yeah.
I often don't even share mine because I wouldn't want to discredit theirs or make it seem like I'm trying to be the contrarian in the room or like folks have had their own experience.
So you have to appreciate people's experiences, because you have to be open to your experiences even being wrong.
Right.
If that same cop that was being nice to you could be a jerk to somebody else.
I'd have caught him on a good day.
Yeah, the same way that we could be that, right?
That's a fact.
I am very nice to whoever girl I'm dating right now, right?
Amen.
But to a guy who's treating me with disrespect, I might not necessarily be as nice or kind.
Because you're a human being.
I mean, exactly.
Because you're a human being.
And it's a tough job. It's a thankless job being a cop. And it's tough, man. But, I think ultimately, having a community of people coming together who support one another, who see both the good and bad, helps the city out. And, as mayor, that's what I tend to do, is making sure that everybody feels safe, feels treated properly without losing the magnitude of our history. That there have been people who have been historically marginalized, persecuted, and brutalized. Yeah. You know what I mean? But I can also see now that we're moving forward, that we can have compassion that these people are not the same people. And that, because I have both. I have family who have had the burden of being subjected to the law, and I also have people in my family and friends who are carrying out the law. Yeah. So when I have that balance and I have that full spectrum, I'm not just polarizing for this or for them, right, or for support or against, then I'm seeing the whole pie and I'm saying, okay, we can fix this out. We can navigate this together. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I like that. If Buffalo doesn't change in the next 10 years, it will. Finish the sentence.
If Buffalo don't, that's tough. If Buffalo don't change in the next 10 years, we are going to continue to see the same things with the same leaders doing the same things the same way with no results. Further despair. And
my last question to you is, what would you say to people, specifically young people, who have given up on voting and engaging in the political system?
Yeah, you're goofy. Because it is you have the most power at the local level, right? As you get to like the president and state senators and U.S. senators and Congress, it gets abstract very fast. It gets very theoretical very quickly. But municipal government on a day-to-day, it impacts your education, your garbage collection, your roads, crime, the police. Your power is no more stronger than at the local level. And at this race, right, we have 5 people running for mayor this June 24th in the Democratic primary. Early election starts tomorrow on the 14th to the 22nd. But, 5 candidates running in a city of the size of Buffalo. It might come down to just one vote. Your vote.
Yeah.
Your vote. Your one vote can change this entire election. Seriously. And you have to recognize your power. I would say, the people who are typically in office, who have been in office for decades, they want the same amount of voter turnout. And historically, the voter turnout has been low. So why would they want more people to vote? Because they know if the same people come out and vote, they're going to come and vote for them, right? But to have more people vote, young people vote, it creates more variables and creates more unknown that might risk or jeopardize their position. Speak your truth. Like, really become an active participant in the political process, because nowhere is going to be closer than the city of Buffalo. So I'm not going to say vote for me, although I would love your support, but get out there, get engaged, learn about what's going on, and vote. At the very least, vote. That's the baseline of being active in the community. Just vote. Then after that, get involved in community, NGOs, get involved, organizations, and speak truth to power. But you got to vote, because otherwise, what do it matter?
Word.
Yeah.
Man, listen, good brother. I appreciate you. I hope to have you back on after the primary on the 24th to discuss the results. Hopefully it turns out well for you. Hopefully it turns out great for the city of Buffalo.
Yeah.
And also with whatever else you have going on, please, you're more than welcome to be a guest to come here, promote, talk about the different things and initiatives you have going on in the community.
When does this episode air? When does it come out?
This episode is going to be out on Monday. I'm going to have it out.
Okay.
So this episode is going to be out on the 16th. Give you a week or so to work it and promote it.
Yeah, I would say every Sunday leading up into the primary, at the very least, I'm doing a Run with Tyson-Thompson event at Delaware Park at 12 noon next to the basketball courts. It's a free workout with Pilates. We got some of the top instructors in the city of Buffalo coming together to help me out, because part of my platform is that how we can build a better and healthier Buffalo as we move forward. Right. So come out, we got a Pilates circuit and then a full body workout, DJ, so it's going to be music, going to be good times, get together, do something healthy and good and positive for the city of Buffalo. So I thank y'all for y'all support. Tyson-Thompson for mayor. Come out and vote for me June 24th, and thank y'all so much, man.
Word. And so make sure y'all click that like button. Make sure y'all subscribe to the Igniting Hope Radio podcast, sponsored by the Buffalo Center for Health Equity. Get in the comments and let us know your thoughts and opinions on what the good brother Tyson-Thompson was sharing on this episode. Get out there and vote. Like he said, June 24th. And yeah, check them out at Delaware Park if you need to get your workout on. I'm going to leave y'all like I always do with the words of my hero, the Honorable Jerry Springer. I want y'all to take care of yourselves and each other. Peace.
Come on.